Thank you very much. Welcome back. And what a great session we just had, and what a fantastic lineup. So if you're watching us on Zoom, on YouTube, on racer.com, on speedsport.com, we're also live on Facebook and LinkedIn. Please share those links with your friends within the industry, because if you know anyone's not watching, please tell them they should be on. This is absolutely unbelievable. And we next going to have Rick Ware.
Yes, and let me jump in here because, you know, throughout all the races I attend, IndyCar, NHRA, NASCAR, throughout the year and events, I ask people, who's the one person you'd like to be interviewed? I swear to you, all year long, Rick Ware. That name popped up all over the place. So I am so proud to have him on and thankful that he's joining us this year.
Spot on, absolutely. Mr. Ware is with us, so Brad Gilly will let you take over as soon as Rick starts his video and is with us. Well, let's we'll wait a few more seconds for Rick. There he is.
Hi, Rick. Thank you for joining us.
Judy, thank you for having me. Sorry for my computer literacy there. I have to have a bunch of help for this.
We're good.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I had myself muted, Rick. Sorry about that.
All right.
You and me both. I think did we actually have a video to play to start with this today? If so, if we could get that rolling, that would be great.
Parts Plus dragster out of the Rick Ware
Parts Plus and Biohaven for Clay Milligan as they head to the finish line stripe. It's Clay Milligan! Yes! Clay Milligan picks up win number 5, his second on the season. Rick Ware Racing!
Checkered flag, Shane McElrath wins the British GP. It's a great weekend for Rick Ware Racing if Shane won both overalls last year en route to his first SX2 championship. The KTM from Rick Ware Racing. Here comes Briar Bauman on this Parts Plus KTM. And the first victory for KTM, the Progressive American Flat Track Championship. Briar Bauman's gonna do it! He's won the Springfield Mile, the Progressive American Flat Track Premier Division. One thing that's kind of interesting is the momentum Rick Ware Racing is carrying into this event.
Dale Coyne Racing with Rick Ware Racing rookie King Ray Ross. Green is the call here in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's go!
Stingray Ross.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Man, the whole RWR team is incredible, and it doesn't matter if it's the top fuel car, the NASCAR, the IndyCar, the IMSA car, Global Supercross, IMSA, you name it. If you ain't following RWR, you are missing out, because we are making things happen. We're stomping on that loud pedal a lot.
Well, Rick, I think the best thing we can start this off with is there a series in North America that you're not entered in right now? That might be the quicker review.
No, there are several. Motorsports is alive and strong, and I'm really thankful to be part of it.
It's incredible. Let's talk about you for a minute here. You know, you're a gearhead from California who came through Texas and kept working your way east, and obviously picking up a lot of racing along the way. So let's talk about where it started, and we'll take it to where we are today.
Well, just you know, I grew up in Southern California, born in '63, and so you know, growing up through the late 60s, early 70s, Southern California was really a hotbed of all kinds of racing. You know, I think back through even the early 80s, you know, NASCAR actually opened up and closed at Riverside, both the beginning of the year and end of the year. The amount of IndyCar, Can-Am, all the kinds of racing, there was so much going on within that industry. I was just fortunate to be, you know, born there and kind of be able to go hang out at shops and got to do cool things. You know, I used to hang out at Bell's Parnelli Jones' shop, and he'd have the Ole Baja 1000 truck there right next to the Viceroy IndyCar, and you know, they were dynoing motors, you know, getting ready to go to Indianapolis for Speed Weeks, and just going to the original Trans Am series, which was, it was kind of like, it was like the road racing of NASCAR back then. It was beating and banging, and all the manufacturers, and then I went to Carlsbad and Orange County and Lyons and Irwindale to in the heyday of all the funny cars and the fuel racing, and Ascot and sprint cars. So as a kid, I was just enamored with racing, period, and loved it, every form of it. And that was probably the nucleus that embedded my addiction, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, well, it's going to be great to talk to you, and it's great having you here because you are involved in so many different things. Let's just start with the NASCAR team. A couple of cars. You had a big change this past season where you actually moved the race shop over to Concord, North Carolina. It's on the campus of where RFK Racing is, Roush Fenwick Keselowski, and a strong technical alliance there. Moving forward, you've signed Justin Haley as one of your drivers, not just for 2024, but beyond that as well. So how has the past year been for Rick Ware Racing? And let's take a look ahead as well.
The past year for us, we achieved a lot of goals in different series, and as well as NASCAR, is just to continue growth, to try to excel from where we're competing at now, to to shoot for top 5s, top 10s, top 20s. Man, the NASCAR deal, it's tough. It's, in my opinion, it's the toughest. It's the toughest form of motorsport on the planet by volume of the amount of races that we have to do, the amount of things that we tear up on a weekly basis, the preparation. We're taking baby steps in that program, and I feel like what we did this year, moving to RFK, it got us closer to be more embedded to getting. It's one thing to get the information. It's another to get it and to have to decipher it and to actually get it on the car correctly. I always heard jokes about people, measuring toe. You can measure toe setting up a car with a laser or a string or a plastic gauge and all kinds of different things. But at the end of the day, it has to have consistency. And we weren't having consistency even with the information that we were getting. We weren't getting quite enough information anyway. So it's multiple pieces. And now with this new car, we have so little practice or no practice. We run, I think, 6 races where you actually literally have no practice. We unload and race at, I think, Daytona, Talladega, and both Atlantas. You better do your homework at the shop. And so we have, for a small team, got a really great bunch of guys at the shop that can help us get the cars prepared, take the information that we're getting. And I got to hand it to RFK. They've been fantastic. They've done everything that they said that they would do and then some. We still have to utilize that information that we're getting from them, continually learning to do that better, because it's a process. And if you don't have quite as much depth, they may be preparing their Talladega cars, let's say as an example, 4 weeks ahead of time, and we may only be preparing them a couple weeks ahead of time, just by the volume of equipment that we may or may not be tore up, or the amount of people to prepare those things. So the NASCAR deal, I think I'm cautiously optimistic in that we will continue to progress. I would say this year it has been insanely competitive in the amount of the new knowledge that on a weekly basis. A year ago, as a small team, we might hit it a little bit lucky, and come off the trailer for practice and run decent. And then as the event goes on, or we come back to that track a second time, the bigger teams have a whole lot more information. And so then there's another leapfrog. The off season in 22 into 23, it's just been amazing, just the growth of this industry.
Yeah, and things continue to move forward. You guys will be campaigning the new Dark Horse Ford Mustang, which, by the way, is a very cool name for a race car. I also want to ask you about the business side too, because when the charter system came out, you went out there and you can look at it and say you took a risk, and some became available, and you jumped on them pretty quick. And now we've started to see the value of those continue to grow very exponentially and very quick as well. Were your early thoughts on that? That did you see the vision of where it would go, or was it just right place at the right time? How did that work out for you?
Well, I think the one thing that we decided on, me and my wife decided on, we'd been racing the part-time cup. We had run basically a full season as an open car the year before. We weren't being able to get over that hump in Xfinity, and having been in the racing is what we do for a living. So, racing inherently is not a very profitable business, and it takes the right amount of sponsorship and all these things to come together. But what I could see is that NASCAR Cup was getting stronger. NASCAR as a whole was continuing to get stronger. But if you were ever going to get a seat at the table, you had better start fighting early and figure out a way to do it. It was never. I always believed in the charter system. It's worked in everything else from Formula One to we have a charter in the World Supercross. It works in MotoGP. Anytime that you have a guaranteed structure, people can invest, which before it was just wealthy people being involved until they didn't have the comfort level of spending any more money, and then it would leave. So for us, it wasn't about, hey, could you buy a charter for X and then turn it around and resell it? Because if that was the case, we would have already done that, I would say, if it was about the dollars. What it was is the viability for me to continue to be in business, first off, because it was getting tougher to even be in business in the racing world. But I knew if we had a seat at the table, that we could at least plan. If you have set income, meaning that at least that you're going to be in business for a full year, then you can sell sponsorship based on that. You can hire better people. We've added and increased the quality of the people and the payroll substantially every single year. You can't do that on just a whim. There has to be a business model there. And at the time, we paid record prices for the charters, and people, I had some people even laugh and say, man, I can't believe you paid more money for the last place charter than somebody paid for the first place charter when Front Row sold. It was really just about being able to start to grow the dream and the plan to, first off, just survive. And then, again, I'm a racer, and I try to be a smart businessman and to grow what I really wanted to do, which was, start to grow into motorsports as a whole. I love the marketing aspect of it, and but NASCAR was the cornerstone of the whole program, and still is.
Yeah, it's interesting when we look at today, the most recent charter transfer that happened. Some people are going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe these are going for 40 million." I look at this down the road, and people are going to go, "Oh my gosh, can you remember when these were only going for 40 million?" I mean, that's what it's supposed to do, right? Increase in value.
Well, if you take it from the context of, and I hate to do too many stick and ball analogies because I get myself in trouble. However, the lowest, Major League Soccer teams that we may not be familiar with that are not winning games, they're shy of $500 million. They're probably in that they're probably in the $250-300 million range, and they don't have the branding potential that NASCAR does. They don't have the schedule, the depth, and it doesn't even count, some of the wild things we're hearing about for 25 and beyond that we may be going and racing. So to say $40 million, that's $40 million doesn't even get you a winning AAA ball team anymore, right? And so, that number is a stout number, and the way we live, that could be life-changing money. But the people that know me, I could have retired at half that years ago if that was really the plan. We like racing. This is our business, and we still have a lot of racing to do. So, but it is nice to know that, all the blood, sweat, and tears that you had, and the things that we've leveraged and had to sell to be able to even acquire the first one. It wasn't just a passive idea. It took risking and everything that we had. And it's nice to know that, 5 or 10 years down the road, we'll at least, be able to relax.
Yeah, which is a great thing. I want to transition over to IndyCar, and I'll do that with a question from the chat. When you partner with someone like Dale Coyne in IndyCar, what do you hope to do by partnering? Is it to help to learn how they run their team, learn new processes, make new business connections, or something different? Tell us about how that works for you.
So Dale's the only partnership that I have in motorsports, and my philosophy has kind of been, typically in motorsports, there's the race team guy, there's the money guy. Usually the money guy is a sponsor, or he comes and goes, or somebody kind of has to lose to make something work in this business. The relationship I have with Dale is a very rare one. And to answer your question, I could be racing with Dale for 5 years and still continue to learn from him. A lot of people don't realize, other than Roger Penske, he has the most IndyCar starts in IndyCar history. He is a hands-on guy, hard worker. Just have a total respect for him. With everything else we had going on, when the opportunity came about, actually through COVID, and anybody in racing is familiar with the Indy 500, and that race is just a crazy. It's a crazy event, let alone a race event, right? So when the COVID came about, and there was a lot of fluctuation and funding and drivers and money and this and that, we had an opportunity to run a third car with Dale. We took, this is early on with some of the expansion, when we took some of our existing sponsors and said, hey, how would you like to be involved in X? And of course, that's it's an easy opportunity for somebody to want to be involved with a 500. And I had never been an owner or a co-owner and entered a car in the 500. And needless to say, we ran. We had a mechanical problem right off the bat, but that's a pretty strong aphrodisiac to even walk on the grid and to be part of that. So that was a pretty huge drug to pull me in. And the conversations just went from there. And we'd looked at doing IndyCar, and we'd looked at doing prototypes. And years ago, I viewed IndyCars as a little bit more daunting, just because of the cost, and you're wrecking these things. I will say, with what the new next gen cars cost and the amount of effort and work it takes to go put these things back together, it took a little of that sting away. And I think there's some things to learn a little bit from how they do a single source supplier versus some of the ways that we're doing it with suppliers, as opposed to building things, right? We are now purchasing things just like the IndyCar did. So right now my plan is to continue with Dale and to really dive in deeper and to grow that. And I get along great with him. He works hard, and he's a real asset and a real tool in the toolbox for RWR.
That's wonderful. All right, I'm going to ask you this question, and maybe this will transition into another series in which you race. But you have so many different types of race teams. Which was your favorite win so far?
Well, again, since we haven't won a cup race, I would have to say, winning a top fuel race was pretty cool. Having, again, I was 6 years old during an intermission, and I made my first full pass at a drag strip. It was a quarter mile, staged my go-kart, Christmas tree, got the time slip at the end of the deal. At 6 years old, it felt like I was going 200 miles an hour. It's probably a day and a half, right? And but like that, I can remember every aspect of that, and then to grow up during the fuel, the core of the new fuel racing with funny cars and front engine dragsters. I was enamored with that, just because it's the sheer speed, the smell, the sound. My father was racing a '68 Camaro, and I think it was like the modified production class, stick shift class. So I loved drag racing. And as I got older, I loved the marketing side of it, and where it wasn't necessarily age related. And as when I was in California, when I moved in '90 back to North Carolina to pursue racing, NASCAR more. John Force went from to almost a nobody into this superstar, and he did it through marketing, branding himself. And I like drag racing because it could, you can be 50 years old and still be competitive to this day. And that's what I always liked about it. I never figured out a way to monetize it or make it a viable business until probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it took me a couple years to put the pieces together. So kind of a long answer, but the reason being is that it's I grew up, we're racing with John Force and Coletta and just, I mean, these superstars of the drag race world. And I love it. And now I'm having a race against Tony Stewart. He's been kicking my butt every weekend. And now I've got a race with him over there too. So it's kind of cool.
That is great, and I'm right there with you when it comes to drag racing. That was definitely an early passion for me in my motorsports fandom, which is wonderful. You had talked about finding a viable way to make it work, and while we're talking about the multiple series in which you race, Rick, how much of that is able to transfer when you start talking to sponsors and having opportunities for different things, or maybe combining efficiencies? How do all of those help work together?
Well, so the efficiencies really work well because we've finally been able to get some full-time, a good small group of marketing people in-house that does our graphics, our video stuff. We manage our hospitality in-house and our social media, et cetera. It's worked well because, if you're a Fortune 500 company and somebody said, hey, you can be part of the Super Bowl and the World Series and NBA playoffs, those things, those are all iconic events. It's hard to be able to go in and potentially do that as a sponsor in motorsports because you're going to have to deal with multiple entities. And the few people that do that, it's pretty expensive scenario. Throughout my whole history, you go and you pitch a sponsor on a NASCAR scenario and somebody kind of like, man, our market, they feel, and whether they're right or wrong, but they may feel that, we're more tech oriented. We kind of like the coolness maybe of what the IndyCars represent, or, drag racing, is a different animal, but yet there's a lot of crossover between NASCAR and drag race on the fan base. But what I would say is that each series has something unique to offer. And if you can go into a company, which we did a couple of years ago with, Biohaven was the parent company, and it was Nurtec, and they wanted to do what a lot of teams did, 10, 15 years ago before it got to be too expensive, is that they would come in and do, IMSA and NASCAR and drag racing. Bernstein, did that. Joe Gibbs did it with, Funny Car and Top Fuel and Cup and in Supercross. And there are many other people that have done it, and it just got really tough to do. But to be able to go in and talk to somebody and say, hey, look, you may be all about NASCAR, and that's the 800-pound gorilla, and there's 36 events, but man, wouldn't you like to bring people to the Indianapolis 500? Nobody's ever said, no, we don't want to go to the largest sporting event in the world. The U.S. Nationals, which, has over 900 entries, and they're there for a week. And it's a crazy drag race. So I now have brought people from that side over to NASCAR and vice versa, and utilized all the greatest things. And we are a value financially to be able to do that. And some of our people that we compete against that have similar scenarios, I think are dramatically more expensive than we are. And what's really important is at the end of the day, it's a business, is marketing, but we all race to go win races. From the very first time you drug a go-kart anywhere, or you did a street stock at Caraway, you go with the mentality of like, well, if we're not going to try to win, why do you go? The reality is once you get to a certain level, it gets really tough to win. And, guys like BJ McLeod have won hundreds of super late model races. But when you get to Truck, Xfinity, and Cup, there are successful race drivers that have not won another race, for years or decades. So it's important for us as we brand and build RWR as an entity that we have to be competitive. And again, NASCAR, we get our butt kicked on a continual basis, but we are getting more lead lap finishes, top 20s, multiple top 10s, those kind of things. But everywhere else we compete in, we can generate enough budget to literally say we have a shot to win. We've been on podiums in Supercross and IMSA, and this is our first full season. We did a partial season last year in Top Fuel, and we won 3 races in Top Fuel this year. And there's only, I think, one team that won more races than we did. We won the Daytona 500 of flat track at the Springfield Mile with KTM, and had 9 podiums and won the World Supercross Championship last year. And I say this because it's an important part of what we do. So when we come in and talk to somebody, we can say with conviction, hey, on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to have videos and you're going to have success. And you have to be careful what you promise in the success, but we need to have a history and recent history of we are competitive. We are gaining competition levels more and more in NASCAR. I hired Justin Haley. He's won in all 3 divisions. That's the first step. We're continually getting more and better engineers. So that's a long answer to Top Fuel. You asked me what my favorite deal is, but that's kind of why. Because it's if you've never been to a Top Fuel race, it's violent and cool all at the same time.
It is. I would agree with you. It is. It's just. It's an insane experience in such a good way. Rick, with Supercross and flat track, the 2 wheels are my passion as well. With sports cars, with dragsters, with open wheel cars, with stock cars, and all that. How do you decide where to go on a given weekend?
Well, a lot of it determines on, if there's a red flag somewhere, meaning either we're trying to keep the wheels on the thing, there's a problem, or there's a big sponsor scenario. We are a small team, but we have some really, really good people. We brought Robbie Benton over going on our 2nd year, and he won the championship in 18 with Penske in Cup, and won multiple championships and run his own teams. I need someone like that to help me manage all this. We do 110 events or something a year, and obviously I can't go to all of them. We don't have private air transportation, and so we have to pick and choose. And we kind of sit back and where are the places that I want to go, just selfishly. I am still married, thank goodness, and she stuck with me. So we have to pick some of the places that if I'm going to drag her to someplace, another race somewhere, that it's at least on her top 5 list. But it also kind of depends on what's going on with that particular series, at that particular time.
Yeah, great point. Let me close this with a comment from the chat. John Stewart, who earlier, by the way, said you had the best hair in racing. I wish we had 10 more guys like Rick Ware. His passion for motorsports in general is contagious. He's developed a proven marketing platform without spending a fortune in each sport in which he's participating. Great interview, and thank you. And I think that sums you up very well, Rick.
Man, thank you all for having me. It's an honor. And Judy, thanks for hunting me down and giving me the opportunity. So,
well, the pleasure's mine, and I swear to you, your name was popped up everywhere all year long. So
sounds good. And Brad, good to talk to you again. And
very grateful.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rick.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.